Hi, this is Frank Adams, and today I'm doing a review of Four Moons. So, Four Moons, the main point of the film is that they are weaving together four queer stories in a very modern way. It's not normal. It's normal to have maybe like two stories or like one and a half stories going on in a movie, but the main point is to show how you can show four different queer stories like this at the same time. It also focuses on a variety of ages, from children to the poet professor with older men. There is a focus on uh, gay males. Also, it's not just a generally queer movie. It focuses around queer sex. So, uh, this film is a queer film from its characters. First of all, there's a major focus on queer characters, and even with the little boy, I'll forget his name, but he from the beginning is like very sure of his feelings, even as a youth, and that to me was very queer because I feel like usually children are like presented as not being confused by their feelings or um, sort of being really torn and like trying to keep it a secret, but he was very bold, and that was a switch up from the mainstream. It was also queer in that they focus on four different queer stories, and there's the story of Hugo and Andre, and Hugo has the other lover, and he wants like Andre to be less feminine and more masculine, and that's not something that you even like in discussing in like if there's gay characters in like a straight film, you would not see anything like that discussed at all, really. Um, so for the costumes in the film and like the fashion, I thought it was because this movie's from 2014 in Mexico. I don't know a ton about Mexican fashion, but I was getting like kind of Abercrombie and Fitch vibes from their outfits, like the fake leather jackets, the shirts with collars. Um, Nothing was kind of obviously queer fashion, but Abercrombie and Fitch is very famously like queer, like a brand that queer people wore to go to bars in the past, and it still holds a place in queer fashion now. So I liked how the film focused on all these different stories. I think maybe the last story of the old of the older man was not as fun, kind of, because the other stories focus on this like youthful queer identity and like people finding themselves, and then the last story was like an older man who's in a marriage, and then he's like paying for sex, and he has to like get the money to pay for it, and it was a bit kind of seems like a step backwards in some ways. Also, like I felt like there was somewhat of like an obligatory naked shot in the scene that he was focused on. It kind of plays into the dynamic of like older gay men sort of going after younger gay men. But in terms of the other films, I like the way that like the kids' relationship was portrayed, Hugo and Andre, and the way that their dynamic was I found like nice, and you would get invested in each character, but it was kind of nice that like you felt like maybe if things weren't going well with one of the characters or something was going on, there was always like the other characters that you could think about, and in some ways like relieve the pressure. What I learned about myself from watching the film, I mean, seeing the kids especially, it brought me back to that time, and like uh, I I found it like pretty remarkable that like the one kid was so sure and like sound in his thoughts that he had feelings for the other boy. And I just, at the time, like I think based on the way like society was at the time, there was like no way for me to like think or deal with my like queer identity at the time. I don't know. I definitely thought about it at the time, but I'm happy to see a kid like him who's, you know, more sure about his feelings. And as far as the film made me feel um entertained most of the time, but at times a bit sad in the scene where Hugo and Andre are in bed, and just like kind of their vibe in general. It just was like hard to watch, especially since they've been together for 10 years. Like I've been in a relationship for almost 1.5 years now, and I know clearly things will be different by that point in time, but if my partner doesn't know how long we've been together, and we've been together for 10 years, oh man, that hit me. I was like, no, please never let that happen to me.